Speak of the, I was going to say speak of the devil, but Pamela's no devil. We just started. We just started live, and who joins us but Pamela and Chelsea. How you doing, guys? You must have heard.
How you guys?
We're doing, well, I'm doing terrific. Our friend Dale got a bit of a cold.
Oh. That's not good.
I am not doing good.
Hmm.
I'm going to rough it, though.
We got lots of interesting stories to talk about. Let me just throw them in the chat area so Pamela can keep up with us, along with everyone else out there. And I will jump into the first story, kind of a holdover from last week. And that's the wrong story. Okay. Getting organized. My picture fading? Am I fading out? I don't know. The picture just started to fade. I mean, today I wasn't really that sure how many great stories we're going to have until today. And then all of a sudden today, I go through the science feeds, and there's a bunch of really exciting stuff. In this case, we're talking about saving Chesapeake Bay. Yay! Talking about they're building an artificial, let me screen share with you, an artificial coral oyster, not coral, but an artificial coral bed in Chesapeake Bay. And a big takeaway here is when we talk about doing things to help the environment, spending a lot of money for something like a man-made reef, a big plus, and what if you want to get governments and things behind you, one, there's got to be an economic incentive. In this case, it's the oyster farmers. And Chesapeake Bay has always been big on oysters, up until, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so, and then the oysters started dying off. Chesapeake Bay was getting polluted. And what they've done is they've created 330 acres. That's called the Harris Creek on the eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay. And they've built these man-made, I guess, corals, man-made reef, I should say. And then they've grown oysters and like an oyster farm. And they're using the oysters that they're growing, the oyster spat, S-P-A-T, to seed this reef, doing two things, now creating more oysters for the oyster fishermen, and two, helping clean Chesapeake Bay. So it's a real win-win. Let's see, there were 10 reefs now where fishing isn't allowed, and they've stocked them with 1 billion oysters. This is a reef completed with the assistance of the Army Corps of Engineers, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the Nature Conservatory. Kind of interesting how they're growing these baby oysters. The scientists and the technicians. Now this sentence, this paragraph, kind of has two very interesting images of jobs that are being created to grow these oysters. And the first job is scientists and technicians at the lab massage their parent oysters into mating in tanks. Now, how's that for a job description? I'm an oyster massager. How the heck you do that? You take, I mean, you get billions of oysters, you take each one out and you give them a little massage? I don't know. Very strange. And they get the males and females to release the eggs. And then it says they spoon-fed these oyster spat with their favorite food. Now, once again, How the heck? What do? You take up each little spat. These things are maybe a thumbnail size, and you kind of feed them with a spoon. I don't know, spoon or something. Very weird imagery. In any event, because overfishing has dropped the number of oysters caught in the bay from some 15 million to about 4 million in the 1950s and less than 1 million in recent years. In 2012, the hatchery produced 1.3 billion spat. They used donations and grants, as I say, and I mentioned some of the partners that they've hooked up with. Another interesting thing they had to do is, in order to get the spat to grow, they need oyster shells, and they didn't have enough oyster shells. So basically, they had to go knocking on all the restaurants, saying, you know, please give us your leftover oyster shells, which they can, you know, break up. They you know, put out a message across the internet. You know, anybody who's got some spare oyster shells, send them to us. And they crushed them up and created homes for our little oyster spats. It says a tractor scoops them up on the dock, and then we bring millions of larvae oysters to the dock, where the tanks about the size of a little swimming pool are filled with cages with oyster shells. And no way to get them off. Once the spats swim onto the little shells, no way to get them off, like cement. When they're old enough to venture out on their own, the boat steams up and carries them to the Choptank River, to the Oyster Creek Reef, and then tosses them overboard. Good luck, little oysters, after that. Last year, the reef seeded with oysters by the state of Maryland, about 130 oysters per square meter, removed 20 times more nitrogen pollution that flows from everything from lawns, farms, in fertilizer. Another benefit, said Alan Gerard, the Maryland East Shore director, is when the spat grow to adults in 3 years, mate by the thousands, their offspring will drift in the current to other reefs. Oh, yay, Maryland. And
I want to be an oyster massager.
yeah, I couldn't quite picture. How the heck you massage an oyster? Particularly when you got hundreds of thousands of them. I don't know. Oh, you little oyster. Play a little Barry White music or something. I don't know. Get him in the mood. Soft lights, maybe. I don't know. Okay, but it's, again, what really is going to help in all these projects, it can show an economic incentive, in this case, oysters, a big industry. And you can marry that with, you know, helping the environment, you know, reducing pollution in Chesapeake Bay. Okay. This next story I found about an hour ago, and it's from the Washington Post. And let's see if I can find my little write-up. Come on, try. Can't do. I can say I found this. Here we go. All right. And I will screen share. I'm going to screen share is a very detailed graphic that really interesting how this system works. The system of hoop into power. Let me screen share. Okay. And this is a little write-up from the Washington Post. DC Water, which treats sewage from much of the Maryland and Northern Virginia suburbs, recently became the first utility in North America to use a Norwegian thermal hydrolysis system to convert sludge left over from treated sewage into electricity. Hawkins said the system, which began producing electricity in September, excuse me, will provide 1/3 of the 157-acre plant's power, saving about 10 million annually. Vast amounts of water and sewage need a lot of power to move through the pipes and pumps, making DC Waters the city's biggest consumer of electricity. The utility expects to save an additional $2 million or so annually on treatment chemicals and $11 million annually in trucking expenses. Previously, the plant produced 1,200 tons of Class B biosolids daily, which is poop to us guys. The industry term for the dark gunk left over from treated sewage. That white smelly residue had to be carried away in 60 truckloads every day, traveling about 75 miles to farms in Virginia. The new system produces about half as much of a cleaner Class A biosolid, which requires half of the number of trucks and smells much more like damp mulch. The Class A compost-like substance can show up in the next year or so on the shelves of Home Depot as a soil nutrient for home gardens. And the DC Water officials say the $470 million system, which took 4 years, will end up paying for itself and shrink the plant's overall carbon footprint by about 1/3. Now that little sound was a message from somebody, but I will just go ahead and here's a little infographic. There you see our starting point. Going into the sewer cities. The screening system, right there, gets rid of rocks, Legos, and anything less than 1/4 of an inch or bigger. All of that goes to a landfill. The rest goes to these primary sedimentation tanks where solid particles settle to the bottom and fats, oil, and grease float to the top. The fats, oils, and grease and other floatables are skimmed off and sent to a landfill. Water is treated to remove carbon and nitrogen, then filtered and disinfected before it's released into the Potomac. During this process, more solids settle out and are sent back to the main solid system train path. Okay, so now we got a little system path. Something called the gravity thickener tank, where the solids are thickened and blended together. And you got a centrifuge. It spins out some of the water coming in, and it gets spun out, and the solids, the sludge-like residue, drops into one of 4 hoppers. The thickeners, the solids are thickened and blended together. So it's this. So the solids are thickened and blended together, and then they go down into this tank. All right. These residue tanks. Argus, like giant drill bits, pull the sludge out. Pumps push it into a pulper. And this is the unique part. It says, taken together, these 3 stages are called thermal hydrolysis. And engineer Chris Piot of DC Water said the process cooks the solids so that microbes can more easily digest them and produce gas. Also sterilizes the materials so that the end product can be used as fertilizer. So we got a little pulper. And the solids are heated to about 205 degrees. Goes over to reactors.
It's funny, we're talking about poop and Justin just came on.
Justin is here. Ooh. How you doing, Justin?
Doing good.
I don't know how to react to that, so I'll just go on. Hey, we have reactors. There we go. Poop reactors. And they are pumped into the reactors, which heat the mixture for 22 minutes at 329 degrees Fahrenheit and at high pressure, which sterilizes and softens them. Let's see. Kind of hard to figure out. I got pass going in two directions here. Oh, the steam is going to be kind of at the end of the circle here. So I'll go over here. Now to the flash tank. A quick return to atmospheric pressure causes the cells to burst, providing easily digestible food for microbes in the digester. There you go. There's your digester. And they're enormous concrete silos, 80 feet high, 100 feet in diameter, with a population of microorganisms called methogens. And they eat up the organic material and produce methane. Each digester holds 3.8 million gallons of solids, which for about 2 weeks is churned by internal mixtures, then pulled from the bottom and spewed out like a fondue? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. In any event, it's spewing out, going to the belt filter process. And the solids filter through this process, squeezes them out in little rollers, and there's your little rollers. The product, now crumbly texture of compost, is delivered into bunkers that can hold up to 1,000 tons. And then it comes out, goes onto these little trucks, and a clamshell bucket scoops the newly minted Class A biosolids into trucks, about 30 trucks a day or 600 tons, that can be used for all types of agriculture into soil for use in urban settings. Oh, there you go. Really interesting.
It's like they made a massive gastrointestinal tract.
Yeah.
And at the end, it poops out into a truck and it's hauled off. Because when you look at it, the different processes, it's kind of a little bit like a GI tract.
Mm-hmm.
It probably works somewhat. Actually, it probably works similarly to some degree.
Yeah, it's like it's being processed the second time. So maybe we can just eat our own poop. We can save all this money and eat our own poop and process it the same way. More environmentally sound, doesn't take the same energy input.
Eating poop.
No one's laughing.
Soylent Green, it's people. It's what? It's worse than people.
Have you seen the Soylent Green ads? They're selling a product called Soylent Green online. Have we talked about this yet?
I don't know if we did or not.
Yeah, it came up on my.
I did have a deja vu there, so.
Yeah, it came up on my Facebook, and they're selling a product called Soylent, and their tagline is, "It's not what you think it is."
So what is it?
It's from a 60s movie where they're feeding the
I know what Soylent Green is. I mean, what is the product that they're advertising?
It's some sort of protein powder that is edible, and it's a meal replacement.
The ingredients hopefully are listed on the label there.
Yeah, all the chemical components.
Now, Pamela, out in Australia, you got that big reef of yours, right? The first story we're talking about, using an artificial reef to seed with oyster spats and all kinds of things. That's what they're doing in Maryland, for Chesapeake Bay. How come you Australian guys aren't doing something like that? How come you Australian guys are killing off your reefs? Come on.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's actually worrisome if they're having these artificial reefs, then they might use that as justification for wrecking the real one. They go, oh, we can replace it now, see? Because the whole argument's been, once it's gone, it's gone. But now they might use that as justification to do what they want and say, oh, we'll fix it later, which has good and bad points. Bad that, they should just leave it as it is, but good that at least maybe it can be replaced because they are killing it.
I don't understand it. Now, you look at Chesapeake Bay. Okay, and Chesapeake Bay, getting very polluted, kills off the oyster harvest, hurting the restaurants, hurting the economy, putting oyster fishermen out of business. So what do? You grow new oysters. You create a reef. That makes economic sense. What happens? Filter feeders. You're cleaning up Chesapeake Bay. It's a no-brainer to me. I don't know. Oh, well, maybe you can, maybe you guys, you've seen that wonderful graph. Maybe you can get your own little poop factory in Australia. You have your own little poop factory right there. I see Chelsea. Right there you go.
Yeah.
I love how they use the word
Yeah,
floatables.
Sorry?
I love how they use the word floatables in that article. And we'll skim off the floatables.
Ew. That's what I do, don't I?
I
She
can
goes
never
in the body and I
remember.
have to do it.
I can never remember if poop is supposed to float. Like maybe there's it's like something's wrong if it's too buoyant and something's wrong if it's too dense. But I don't know. I can never tell. It's best just not to look.
Don't look down.
Just don't look. Never look. Cool guys never look back. Right?
You know what? This could give rise to a whole other industry. I mean, you can take people unemployed, create, just like in the service, when we were on the ships, you had these big circular toilet things, and people sat on top of them and pooped down. Shit, you could have a poop factory. And then you circulate it, and you go into the whole big factory thing I just showed you, and you're all set.
Yeah, Ed. Although instead of unemployed people working this ship duty, I would have. I think I would take all the Wall Street execs and bankers who. This would be the sentencing. This would be the sentencing for financial crimes in this country. You don't go to prison because it's going to be a white collar prison. It's going to be too nice. We're gonna do a little work release program here. Where you get
Work release.
At the poop factory.
I don't get why it's punishment. Everyone poops. Like, I'm not doing anything with mine, so I'm happy to, have it used.
Yeah, no, it should be used.
You gotta go, you gotta go.
I'll donate.
Okay? Yeah, I mean, you gotta go anyway. It's not like you're gonna go extra. You're just gonna go the same amount.
If I know it's for a good cause, I might go a little extra. I might put in the effort.
How can you?
I don't think that's healthy though. I like pushing hard.
No.
I'm not saying pushing hard. I'm saying, you know what? I'm full. I could stop eating now, but because it's gonna go to a good cause, I'm just gonna make sure I clean my plate thoroughly. Yeah. Might even go back for a third.
Well, you could also maybe. I mean, you've got two poop machines there. I mean, you guys, Justin, you've got a whole poop factory.
Oh yeah.
Dale, you got your little poop factory.
Yeah.
Maybe you could kind of I don't know, package it, bring it over to the fill, get paid. Maybe it gets weighed, and you get paid a couple of bucks for your poop. I don't know.
I'll even put it in bubble wrap for you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's already kind of a task to load up all the recycling, and that really piles up. I kind of put it off, and then I'll take a full vehicle full of recycling at one time. I don't know if I want to do that with what we're talking about here. I don't know if that would be, yeah. Although we could just get rid of the plumbing portion of it. Did I ever tell you the bucket story? I'm sure I did.
I don't remember.
In Greenland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get to Greenland, and one of the things, we're at this farthest northernmost village in Greenland, Canuck. And Canuck is, it's so rural, it's like 600 hunters that live there, and that's kind of it. But there's a cabin there that we're staying at. But there's no running water. This is what I know so far. So when I'm getting there, one of the things is, what's the bathroom situation? What's going on? I know there's no running water, but this is like tundra and stuff. Is there outhouse that we go to? Like, what's the deal? And we get there, and there's a bathroom with a proper-looking toilet there. Aha! Okay. Well, wait. There's no running water. This doesn't make sense. So everybody else is milling around, checking out the rest of the place, unpacking. I'm just fixated on the toilet. I got to figure this out. I open the lid of the toilet, and there's a bucket underneath. Huh. So I'm like, hey, there's a bucket. Anybody know how the bucket works? And they're like, well, there's a crew, I guess, that comes around with a truck, and they take the bucket. Oh. So they come when they take the bucket, and I guess they gave us a new bucket. Okay, that's cool. Everybody's cool. So there's like 5 of us staying at this cabin, maybe 6. A couple days later, 2-3 days later, this truck pulls up with all these yellow bags, these big yellow, thick-looking, hefty bags all on the back of it. They're like kind of loaded up. And that's the moment I realized, with some serious dread, that the bucket is supposed to have liner. And I'm like, I ran and hid. I admit, I was not courageous. As soon as I saw that, I like tippy-toed out and watched from afar as as these poor Inuit waste disposal workers had to discover the bucket had no lining. Because it wasn't a truck full of other buckets. There were no other buckets. It was these big, hefty bag-looking things. So sure enough, they were really polite. They actually took the bucket and returned it to us pretty shortly after, cleaned out, and gave us what I guess had been missing, or we hadn't recognized, as the liners for the bucket. So our first impression with the locals is that we were so ignorant we didn't even know how to use a toilet properly. But I also never got the question answered, where do they take it? I was told there's a place they take it, they have a place they'd go, and they basically dump it somewhere, I guess. But yeah, what a as long as you're on the bucket system, you could turn it into fuel. What a good idea.
Have you guys ever spent time in like nature where there's nothing, just you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Grew up that way. Yes.
Yeah.
No bucket, just a shovel.
But I, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, I took my own little collapsible portaloo toilet thing with liners that are biodegradable and a privacy tent.
Oh.
So depending on how long we're staying somewhere is usually the answer to that question. If it was property that we owned but was rural, you try to dig down like 10 feet and you create a proper outhouse. That's how you did it. We dug a hole straight down, and we're down there filling buckets and raising them up, and the bucket comes down and you fill it up some more and you go up. So you got this 10-foot deep thing and you build an outhouse on top of it. For the more 1-2 days out in the woods, it was dig a big hole, a couple feet deep, and do it that way.
Oh. We dig cat holes, we call them.
This portaloo thing I've got is only like the size of a book. It's really not that difficult to take with you and be civilized.
No, and I remember, like the one-day trips, no, you just squatted in the woods. But if we were going to be there for like a month or something, we had like a toilet that was like kind of like the toilet in Canuck, which was but that was more of a proper looking toilet. But it was, it had the lids and everything. You had you put it over the little hole you dug there. So you had a proper little toilet in the woods. It was all right. Not too. We weren't savages, mind you. We were just hill folk.
Well, I'm looking forward because.
Go ahead, Pamela. I was going to ask you a question.
I was going to say, you know how in Asian countries, most Asian countries, they have the toilet closer to the ground because that's actually healthier for you.
Well, that's not why. That's not why. Not because. No, not because it's no. That's not why. It's because.
Okay.
It's because no. Lack of industry. They just put the hole in the ground, and it was less stuff you had to buy and build to make toilets for a billion people. It's not because it's better for your back or any nonsense.
No, it's better for your back. It's easier to poo. You don't have to push as hard. Anyway, so I'm going to be in one of those countries this time next week, so I'll be happy pooing. Just thought I'd share that.
Yes.
Pamela, there's nothing more biodegradable, right, than feces? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ship my urine too if you want. It's all good.
Not for me, but maybe they can use it in Washington D.C. And come on, they've
got enough. They've got enough in D.C.
If you're out in the wilderness, I guarantee you're gonna. What do you think the animals do? Maybe a cat digs a cat.
Oh, it's not about.
Come on.
Yeah, it's not. I've never dug a hole. I take my own.
Oh, I always dig the hole, and here's why. For precisely what Ed was referring to. What do animals do? What animals do is they communicate. They put a whole lot of information into every drop, and you can tell somebody's who was here, who was there, what they ate, what their hormone situation is. And the humans are so far removed from nature that our scat is a babbling, insane brook of nonsense. We're both threatening and just proclaiming to nature that absolute wild, crazy insanity is taking place. As soon as that's what our poop says. Our poop says we're not of this earth. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Our poop says stuff about us we don't want anybody to know. Okay. And in the forest, though, that's a huge part of the communication out there. I remember we were told to pee a perimeter, pee in a perimeter, as sort of a way to ward off, maybe the larger predators. If you peed to the south, you had a tree that you peed on. Next time, go to the east or the west, and sort of like be right, because that also communicates to nature. And if we had a properly peed perimeter where everybody didn't pick the same spot every time, but sort of laid out a perimeter, we were less likely to have trespassing animals, because they would say, again, because our pee, like our poo, speaks volumes of insanity about us. It would tell the forest creatures that something unusual and strange was taking place in this area. Stay away.
Exactly what you said, Justin. I saw that in a movie about the researcher. He was in Alaska someplace or something.
Oh, Dances with Wolves. Yeah.
And that's what he did. He peed his perimeter.
Yeah. Well, he was marking his territory. Yeah.
But the other thing too is I've also read that some animals, where humans urinate frequently, use it as a salt lick.
I have not heard that.
It popped into my brain. I read that somewhere. I've got no idea where.
But it does remind me of something I've been meaning to do, and I keep forgetting. I need to order those coyote urine pellets. I want to put those in a perimeter around my place to keep the cats away. Forgetting to do this.
That's a very good idea. Okay, I think we've spent enough time with poop, at least temporarily. I see perhaps Pamela and Chelsey have fled the scene. Who knows? All this talk might have stimulated one of them. I don't know.
Hey, can you flick your settings again for your audio? Remember what you did before? You went from default to whatever?
No, I've already been today, earlier. Thanks. I'm right. I won't need to go again today.
I don't think that's what he was referring to, but it's really unusual that you would take that inference from what he said and think that that's what he was talking about. Actually, I think he's talking to Ed, because Ed has become...
What? No. There must be a delay. Ed, I thought Ed was saying how he inspired us to poo. And I'm like, no, I've already been earlier, but thanks.
No, you seem to be responding, actually, to Dale saying that you should flick your default setting. To which you immediately began answering that you'd already gone today. And I'm like, that's a really interesting way of interpreting what he just said. And I suppose maybe this is how you say this in Australia, and I'm the one who doesn't understand the conversation. Hey, mate, flick your setting today to the default. Oh, no, but I'm about to, and it's going to be a right big one.
It must have been a
So, I'll be right back. But Ed, yeah, you've turned into a robot. Your inner robot is shining through again.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's good. You're good now, Ed. Talk.
Are you guys messing with me?
Nope. Now it's good.
Now
You
it's
must have
good.
flipped that thing. Yeah.
Okay, I have no clue what's. Yesterday, right in the middle of watching This Week in Science, Comcast went out. Bang! It just went out from West Virginia to Boston, about
Whoa.
hundreds of miles. It just went out. Hopefully, it will not go out. And if it does, I think you guys can continue, and I think you can probably end it. In any event, I'm going to go on something really very exciting. I've got two stories talking about the amazing advances that are happening almost on a weekly basis. One dealing with giving people who are quadriplegics more mobility. We've read about it with legs. This is a story about hand, giving people more mobility with their hand. And then another story about a catheter, using a UV light gizmo inside a catheter, and then using that to affix a patch to heart for pairing hearts, and then no surgery, no cutting or anything, and then the patch eventually melts, heart is good to go. The first one we will start with, and I will attempt to screen share again. There we go. And there you can, that's a surgeon on the right. And as you can see, he's a paraplegic, and now he can use his hands. He can grip. And reading from the article, a pioneering surgical technique has restored some hand and arm movement to patients immobilized by spinal cord injuries in the neck. Researchers assessed outcomes of nerve transfer surgery in 9 quadriplegic patients with spinal cord injuries in the neck, and each patient in the study reported improved hand and arm functions. And the research assessed the outcomes. Every patient in the study, as they say, improved to some degree. Physically, nerve transfer surgery provides incremental improvements in hand and arm function. However, psychologically, these small steps are huge for a patient's quality of life. And this is from the lead author, Ada K. Fox. One of my patients told me he was able to pick up a noodle off his chest when he dropped it. Before surgery, he couldn't meet his fingers. Now it means he can clean himself off some. I mean, that's pretty big when you think about it. Being able to do a little thing like that. Indeed, one of the most humbling effects of spinal damage is the inability to manage bladder and bowel functions. We seem to be on a theme of poop today, perhaps. People with spinal cord injuries cannot control these functions because their brains can't talk to the nerves in their lower body, and they often can't feel the need to go to the bathroom. Patients often can't insert a catheter to empty their bladders or insert a suppository or for bowel movement and to rely on help and have to rely on help from a caregiver. But after this surgery, one of my patients was able to independently catheterize himself, which he hadn't been able to do since his accident over a decade ago. This was a boost in his privacy and personal space, restores a significant amount of dignity. The procedure allowed a St. Louis primary care physician and a father of 8 to feed himself with a fork, write with a pen, look into patients' ears with an otoscope, and drive his kids to activities. Nerve transfer surgery has been very successful in helping me because it restored triceps function and improved my grip. And this is a guy named Balzovic, and he's assistant professor of clinical medicine at the School of Medicine in the Barnes Jewish Hospital. Bypassing the spinal cord, surgeons rerouted healthy nerves sitting above the injury site, usually in the shoulders or elbows, to paralyze nerves in the hand or arm. Once a connection is established, patients undergo extensive physical therapy to train the brain to recognize new nerve signals, and that takes about 6 to 8 months. Another patient benefiting from the nerve transfer technique, a 70-year-old right-handed man who had surgery 2 years after he suffered a cervical spinal cord injuries. And the patients took healthy tissue from his upper arm, connected it to a paralyzed nerve that controlled its ability to pinch, and then plugged it into a working nerve that restored the man's ability to flex his thumb and index finger. And this allowed him to feed himself and to hold a water bottle to maintain hydration, which in turn reduced his risk of developing urinary tract infection and boosted his overall health. That is freaking amazing. Justin?
Yeah, very cool.
I thought you were trying to say something.
That was all I was saying. I was just saying it was very cool.
Yeah. And the thing is, you're reading about these kinds of stories practically every week.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like, I mean, this is fairly rapidly advancing technology. I mean, a lot of the studies we do talk about something working with mice. This is something working with people, paralyzed people.
Yeah, I mean, and on all fronts too. It's just an incredible time to be alive, but maybe not the most incredible time, because it never is. The most incredible time is what's coming in the future, always. You know, I sometimes feel like a lot of what we are hearing about breakthroughs in the medical field that are going to be curing ailments which ail us. It's sort of like hearing a description of the computer in a 1930s Popular Mechanics. Yeah, the promise of what this can do in the future is huge, and yeah, it's going to be something that daily impacts people's lives, but you might not be here to see it. Right? Like, for a lot of what we report on TWIS and what we talk about here, a lot of it is stuff that is going to be hugely impactful 50 years from now, where it's going to be, you can go into your doctor's office and have the cones in your eyes replaced through a stem cell treatment. It's proof of concept exists today, but the realization of that may take a lot more time. But then there's things like this story, right? Where here's a promise of something that might be able to be done that is now being done, which is always a relief, right? That it's being done now. And there's a lot that can accelerate and won't be 50 years away. I mean, our ability to sort of bring things from concept to reality technologically is extremely accelerated. But there's always that thing that needs to take place. We need these things to be funded and financed and supported by our collective spending power, which is our government. This is how we accelerate these things. And then there's the checks and balances of the democratic society in which we have an FDA that's job is to slow down the concept to practice in investigating the pitfalls of these, especially in the case of a lot of drugs specifically. There are drugs that get pushed through too quick, and then they find the side effects that were maybe or maybe not even hinted at in the initial research. They tend to fast-track drugs for that sort of last option scenario, like for a lot of the cancers. There's drugs that are pretty rough on the body overall, but have shown promise to prolong life 2, 3, 6 months, something of that nature. When the person that you're giving the drug or treatment to is going to die regardless of what you give or don't give them, and there's something that might help, they're more likely to accelerate it. If it's something that, yeah, it would be a quality of life change, but we don't know any of the side effects yet, they're gonna move slower. And it seems as though this is something that could be accelerated with more government research, relying on like a pharmaceutical company's research or whoever's doing the medical trials research alone. It seems like you could be duplicating and quadrupling the trials and the tests with more government funding to accelerate these things. But it is an exciting time to see some of these things actually coming to fruition.
Dale, I noticed you unmuted your mic. Did you want to say something?
Well, just that I think the bodies like the FDA, I think they're getting faster, and I think the reason they're getting faster is if you look at the scientific progress of the 80s and 90s, they were still guessing, and their only way to kind of get a good idea that something was working or not was really through in-depth clinical studies. I think it's becoming more mathematical now, where our hit ratio on what we're doing, it's getting a lot more accurate rather than, look, we went into the jungle and found this compound and it happens to, we injected it into a toad and the toad is getting better. I think we're beyond that now, and the FDA is recognizing that, and they're carefully trying to accelerate the process without harming anybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we're not just now we're at the point where we're not talking exclusively about cures. Even cancer, we can cure many forms of cancer, but that cure really impacts the quality of life. Transplant surgery, whatever, where the cure is almost as bad for the body as the illness was. But now what's happening is we're also we're creating more and more less invasive kinds of treatments, and so we're getting the quality of life back. We're not just curing, we're curing and allowing people to have a reasonable quality of life. Dignity. In this first story about this person, just he can clean himself off for the first time in his life. A guy who can just feed himself. I mean, now that's quality of life, not just cures, but quality of life.
Well, I had a good conversation with an immunologist that I know, and his take on things was the drugs are speeding up, and they're getting better. They're getting less byproducts from them, where they're not as damaging. He talked about a psoriasis patient that didn't have a lot of hope with all the conventional drugs that were used up until about 2 years ago, and the the science they've done on the immunological stuff has really put some drugs through where her life is manageable now, whereas before it was horrible quality of life. And there are some kind of downsides to the drugs that she's taking, but nothing like the symptoms she was getting. And his take on it was he can't believe how quickly these drugs are coming out, and the quality of them, the hit ratio is getting better, where the byproducts aren't as concerning, but they're still there. So I think we might be in for a fun ride here, where they're gonna have a very clear understanding where there's so many hits, positive hits, that people won't want to wait for the clinical studies. They will demand, I think at some point when the science gets good enough, even though there's risk involved, people will stand up and say, look, I'm dying anyways. It's not your choice, government. It's my choice. And if there's full disclosure and the FDA approves that the disclosure is accurate with the science that they know at the time, then you can go ahead and become I think they'll loosen that up, so the risk factors go up as we get more accurate, if that makes any sense.
No, I completely agree. When Justin was talking about the political process in terms of funding things, where you can show demonstratable progress, not just here's something in a mouse study or here's something that helps 14 people or whatever. When you can show a person who was a paraplegic, soldier in particular, people see that image of the soldier who's a paraplegic, who can now get up and do things. I mean, and with cancers, where you're no longer talking about, okay, man, the guys, they're getting cured for cancer, but they've got to be hooked up all the time and they're No. Increasingly, you're talking about, particularly if it's a primary cancer, you catch it at that first stage, now you've got a good quality of life. And I think that's where, as you say, Dale, where more and more people they'll demand the voters, they'll pressure.
I think so. But we need more from science yet. The accuracy is getting better and better because we're understanding of the genetics, the epigenetics of what we're doing to the bodies. And yeah, as we start getting better, there's going to be more demands on science where, hey, I'm going to take this drug because I want to take it, and step out of my way because I'm going to die anyway. So I think that'll become more, I don't know how that'll get legislated, but in the end, if people want something, there's going to be a way for them to get there.
I'm going to go on to the next story because this talks about also an improvement in non-invasive repair work with the heart in this particular case. And this is using a UV light-enabled catheter, fixes holes in the heart without invasive surgery. And this is Boston Children's Hospital. Man, I'm hearing a lot of stories from these people at Boston Children's Hospital. And they have designed a specialized catheter for fixing holes in the heart using a biodegradable adhesive and a patch. And the catheter has been used successfully, this is in animal studies, to facilitate heart closure without the need for open heart surgery. In addition to avoiding open heart surgery, this method avoids suturing into the heart tissue because we're just gluing something on it. When the heart catheter is inserted through a vein in the neck or groin and directed to the defect within the heart. Once the catheter is in place, the clinician opens two positioning balloons, one around the front end of the catheter passing through the hole, and the other on the other side of the heart wall.
All right. Hold on one second. Is anybody else getting robot ed again, or is it just me?
Yep, robot Ed. You need to flip your switch.
Flipping my switch again. I don't know. Okay. Apologies. I have no idea what's happening. Why sometimes it goes and doesn't go.
It's really weird, yeah.
The technologies.
Because your video is remaining clear, so it doesn't feel, in this end, appearance-wise anyway, to be like bandwidth dipping and surging.
I changed the bandwidth back and forth.
But it doesn't seem to be a bandwidth thing, because your video isn't being impacted. It's not like the image is stuttering at all. Everything's fluid. It just seems to be the audio, for some reason, going into this garbled robot mode. And it's only been, how long has it, this has only been going, this has been going on for a few weeks, but never from before then, right? So,
no.
What is different? What has changed?
Does it sound any better?
Yes.
I don't know what's happening. You know what it is? I mentioned, you know what's going on? I think we have, this is Chrome and YouTube. And I think, you know, they got the algorithm. And the algorithm goes along, and then there's a little piece of code that say, it's time to screw with the old guy. I don't know what else it can be.
I would remove if it's possible, I don't know if it is, remove the audio driver and then reinstall it, if that's possible. I don't know.
I would have no idea if it is, no idea how to do it. I've got a Dell computer. I wouldn't even attempt to mess around with it. I don't know. As long as, well, if we can get through, if you can at least follow me with these stories and talk about it, that's fine at this point. I will try and do some more research. I'll try to find out if other people are having this problem. But
so don't worry. Just go with the story, because now you're clear. What's going to happen is as soon as you start doing the story now, it will have used up your allotted time for speaking clearly, and you'll be right back to the robot.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, here we go. The catheter is inserted through a vein in the neck or groin and directed within the heart. Catheters, catheter balloons, I think. Did I talk about the balloons? Well, one catheter in place, the clinician opens up two positioning balloons. The clinician then deploys the patch, turns on the catheter light. The light reflects off the balloon's shiny interior, activates the patch's adhesive coating. As the glue cures, pressure from the positioning balloons on either side of the patch helps secure it in place. Balloons deflated, catheter is withdrawn. Over time, normal tissue growth resumes, and the heart tissue grows over the patch. The rate at which the patch biodegrades can be slowed or accelerated depending on how quickly the surrounding tissue grows over it. Further studies will reveal the appropriate length of time for different circumstances. And the glue works in the face of blood is, the way the glue works in the face of blood is revolutionary. We don't have to stop the heart. And I've come back, and now I've lost Dale, and it... Pamela, are you there? Oh, we're having fun tonight. Justin, I don't know if Justin is here, if he just muted his mic or what's going on.
I'm still here.
I was going to say, not having to stop the heart, that's a major development.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And
Sorry,
again, no, go ahead. You're involved in some activity there, Pamela, with Chelsea, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Chelsea, man, think of the world Chelsea's going to be growing up in. This non-invasive surgery and all different kinds of surgeries. We're reading about it, where they don't have to cut in, where you're using maybe little lasers. We're getting to little nanobots that can go into the system and do stuff. You're talking about a patch here, and the only thing is you kind of apply the patch. It's got some glue on the skin, and then you seal it, and then it biodegrades and natural tissue grows over it. Amazing stuff. Okay. I'm not going to go into too much detail reading about this because it's been publicized about Chernobyl and how animals are returning to Chernobyl, and how a lot of people are saying that it proves that humans are more dangerous to animal life than nuclear radiation. Kind of true to some degree.
To every degree. Look. This is the thing. They have this no-go zone. I don't know if it's 100 square miles around the planet. It's like a huge distance around where no human is allowed to travel now near Chernobyl. You can't go vacation or picnic there. And as a result, wildlife has flourished. The wolves are back. The mooses are back. The foxes, the deer, the rabbits, the owls, the whatever are all back. And you know, it's something that we still, I think, kind of assume that when mankind goes somewhere and puts in a development, the animals that were there just go somewhere else. Well, there's not a whole lot of somewhere else's. And most of the industrial world, a lot of those somewhere else's have something going on, be it farming or mining or timber or human civilization with highways and gas stations and fast food places. There's lights on all the time. There's noise going all the time. There's human activity all the time. And yeah, a wandering moose, bear, or wolf is treated as though it's somebody's loose rabid dog. So here's an area where there's no human pressure, and wildlife resurges. Now, how will they do in light of the fact that they're in a somewhat radioactive community? Probably not as well as the animals would do if they weren't there. But
glow in the dark wolves.
But and then it's sort of, there's like this part of it's like, okay, so all these animals can go and flourish and reproduce there for a few generations before what? Some sort of systemic mutation or cancers wipe out those populations anyway? Or is it going to be some sort of learning to live in a woods with elevated rad count? That's possible too, I suppose, but not as likely. So, yeah, it illustrates, I think, better than anything, the point that I've always made, which is that if you really, truly love nature, move to the most urbanized concrete jungle of the city that you can find so you can stay as far away. Don't move close to nature. Don't put your house out in the woods. That's not how to really love nature. That's how to destroy nature. That's how we ruin it. We humans are not of this earth. We are simply on it at this point. We are aliens. We might as well be an alien invader. We would have as much respect for the planet as they would, I think. So if you really want to protect the environment, move to New York City or San Francisco or Detroit or someplace with a massive urbanized... Actually, Detroit's kind of going back. I think there are wolves, wolf packs roaming around downtown Detroit these days. I think it is being reclaimed by nature. But for other places, stay away from nature. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, I kind of take the opposite viewpoint in terms of man's relationship with nature being, one, we're a part of nature. Two, we change the environment. Well, the environment changes all the time. And some animals can adapt to a particular environment, and some animals can't. They can't. They become extinct. This is just natural evolution. We talk about cities. There's tons of wildlife in cities. I mean, we now have the coyotes love us. And you now have the evolution.
You sound like Trump. You sound like Trump. Coyotes love me. Coyotes love me. I see them at the trash bins, at the landfills. They go around at night. Coyotes love me, okay? I don't have a coyote problem. Coyotes don't love cities.
Animal, are you kidding me? City raccoons, the urban raccoon. The urban raccoon, the population of raccoons is higher in the city than it is in the wild.
That I believe.
I will grant you a problem we do create is a lack of diversity. And that, yes, I agree 100%. One of the reasons why we need these wild environments and things is we've got to have more diversity. What happens in our cities and in man-made environments is they tend to specialize. And you don't get so much diversity. And yes, that is a problem. Too bad Dale has gone. Dale's had a cold. And
well, I was just going to say, there is. I live around a lot of nature. Last night, we were walking around the corner to go to the community, meeting, and we nearly ran over a snake with the stroller. So the detour around. This morning, we went to the park, and there were 3 chickens just hanging out. So,
there's a
you
few
leave them
wild
alone, they
packs
leave
of-
you alone. It's all good.
Yeah, there's a few wild packs of turkeys in Davis. There's definitely a different pod of raccoons at every block. And, of course, the squirrel and the bird population is decent. It'd be better without all the damn cats. But I don't think that that's... I mean, there's certainly not mooses and wolves and deer running through town. Although I'm not really sure how many wolves, deer, or mooses would ever have been in Davis. I suppose we would have had plains deer. That would have been.
You don't have deer? We have deer all the time. We have deer running through my condo complex.
We don't have... No, we never see deer around here. We're surrounded... We're way too far away from actual wilderness in Davis. Occasionally we get... Not too far from here, you will see... Maybe there are up in the little Sierra foothill things. Or not the Sierra foothills, the other way. What is it called? The coastal range. The coastal buttes or whatever they are. We have mountain lions occasionally surface through there. And I suppose a deer or two maybe that way. You'll never see one coming into town. Anyway. Although occasionally I guess they can get... I remember as a child hearing about a mountain lion that made it all the way into sort of the center of Sacramento, which is in the middle of the valley, and it's a big million-person population. But it's got the rivers running flow, and so this thing had followed the river going along the levees, I suppose, to get caught up in the... That or somebody's pet escaped. It was the 80s. People did have pet mountain lions back then. I too am going to have to disappear though because I have a really early day tomorrow, and I've got to go back to preschool, so I've got to be well rested for circle story time. Last time I fell asleep, I missed the end.
That's not fun. Yeah. How much? Oh, you're going now? Okay.
I got to go now. Good night, Ed. Good night, Pamela.
Good night.
Good
Okay.
night. Okay. Well, I've got lots to do too, actually, because I'm still unpacking my house, and we're going overseas in 6 days.
Ooh,
So
Bally's calling.
Bali. Yeah.
Wow.
Going to Bali. And having a look around Indonesia while we're there. Not sure how much further we'll go because we're only there for like 8-9 days or something. But we're coming to the US in 2017 for an eclipse.
An eclipse. Ooh.
So, yeah. I can't remember what month, but I was talking to my friend who chases eclipses because I'm going to catch up with him in Indonesia in March for an eclipse next year, and then he said to come over to there, and you have to. Okay, so there's an eclipse in 2017, so we'll be coming across.
Ah, the United States will be happy to see you in Chelsea.
I hope so.
2 years. We'll have ourselves a new president. No.
Yeah. Interesting.
Me and Ulysses might have a political hangout Saturday. Don't know if you can make it or not. But
yep. My
okay.
Sunday, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can make it for a bit. It depends on baby, and it depends on, I'm still unpacking, so.
I saw you posted a picture of some kind of a packing thing that looked like a piece of S&M equipment. Looked like a little cage that around people would wear. I don't know. It just looked very, very weird.
I don't know. Are you sure that was me? I didn't.
I'm
what?
pretty sure it was you. Let's see.
Equipment. Like a cage. Do you mean the clear suitcase?
Yes, I think that was it.
Oh, you think it looks like a cage? An S&M? No, I don't think so. Yeah, no, it's a clear suitcase. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I didn't buy that. Yeah. One, because it was 745 Australian dollars, and that's ridiculous. No, yeah, I bought one that's 145 Australian dollars.
Chelsea's forming almost actual words now that I can understand.
She is, yeah, she says words. In amongst the gibberish, she says proper words. Like, we go for, she does a shower. And when I turn the water off, she says towel. When I turn the water off. And, yeah, towel, that's right. You get dry. Tissue and a towel. And, just things like that. But it's inconsistent. But no, she always says that. And she says mummy. Mama. So, yeah, she says lots of words. Mama. Don't she? Mama. Yeah. And Mama. 1, 2. That's right. Oh, a birth there. 2. A. 2. No, A-B. Yeah. So, yeah, she says words. No sentences yet. Not stringing them together.
Okay. Yeah, because on Saturday, if you can make it, it's interesting. The difference in our political systems. You changed prime minister, correct?
Yeah,
and you didn't have an election.
No, I talked about this on Radio Parallax. I put a link to the radio show on my Pamela Chelsey Taylor Facebook page. But Radio Parallax is on KDBS, the same radio station as This Week in Science, through the college radio, UC Davis.
Yeah.
So they invited me on to speak about that. So I already did like a whole 5-minute bit about how that happened. So
the parliamentary system.
Yeah,
okay.
the host of Radio Parallax is the guy who chases eclipses that I was just talking about. Because that's how I met him. He was at an eclipse here in Cairns 3 years ago, and we just got to talking and realized we knew a lot of the same people.
Oh yeah, I met through the internet. People traveling around. You're seeing many more
we met
people.
on the street. We met just on the street talking.
Oh.
The old-fashioned way. Yeah, and then he said he has a show on KDBS, and I'm like, really? Oh my goodness! And then we just started talking, and yeah, it was 2 a.m. just in time, but we called him just to say, guess who I'm with? Look who I just met. Yeah, so now we're friends. Yeah, so I do radio. So yeah, radioparallax.com if you want to check out his show, and I did a whole bit about how our Prime Minister just changed without an election.
And the party, it sounded like the party realized this guy was never going to win. So they've got a new prime minister who they think has a chance of winning.
Yeah.
So it actually could be kind of bad news for Australia.
Yeah, because they're still running with the same policies. That's right. But this guy personally has different values. You know, he's not for the monarchy, so we could finally see a separation from that. Whereas the other guy is actually British, so he's really for the monarchy. He was still handing out knighthoods, for goodness sake. And this guy is for marriage equality personally, although he's not pushing that policy yet. Whereas the last guy said it was never going to happen under him. Even though his own sister's gay, he is against gay people, so there's some family issues there. And yeah, lots of differences. And this guy actually believes in climate science, but again, he's still running the same policies, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Can't be any worse than the last guy. The last guy was just embarrassing.
I don't know if you've been following the news in the United States, which is pretty embarrassing political process. We've got, you've got, the way we work is the president and Congress, they can make all kinds of laws, but it's up to Congress to pass the budget. And two houses, the Senate and the House. Okay, the Senate Republicans and Democrats getting together reasonably well to pass a budget. But then you go to the House where you've got a group of conservative Republicans, 40 out of I don't know how many, 200, and they've made this one issue. Federal support of the Planned Parenthood organization that does, I don't know exactly what they do, but it provides abortion funding in some way. They do a lot of other things as well. But this one group, this 40 group, is saying they're not going to budge. And they don't care if there's no budget passed. And within they control the House, and two different Republicans, the current Republican House leader, he is resigning because he can't work with these 40, this group of 40. The Republicans were going to the number 2 person. He's not going to take the job as Speaker of the House because he can't work with these 40 people. So you've got these group of 40 people. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I don't know what. You know, I don't even know what. I can't believe we won't have a budget. That would be too horrendous. So you've got 40 people with the entire U.S. budget as a hostage, keeping them as a hostage. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, to be continued. No, I'm getting fed. She's trying to feed me.
Okay, I will let you run, Pamela.
Okay, I'm gonna get back
through some interesting stories.
So that I can move around my house. Got boxes everywhere at the moment.
Okay. Maybe I'll see you Saturday, Pamela. Bye.
Yeah. Well, send me through a link and I'll see what I'm up to.
Okay.